whenever you're aware.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, Lizette, and thank you so much, for having me. I'm always thankful to participate in all the great work that you dynamic Dr. duo does. There's a lot of D's, but anyway, I'm just really thankful that there are folks out there like yourselves that are doing this work on the high school level. And it's not just on the high school, your work extends to the college level and beyond. But in particular, working in this space is really important. So, my name's Emmett Gill. I am currently a faculty member at George Mason University, but my primary sort of gig, in my eyes is my work in the mental health space in college athletics. You can see my hat here, visit where athletestalk.com. I learned branding from the good lows. And I'll talk a little bit maybe about that later because we have an NIL plan on our app. But, I've been working in college athletics now for probably the past 16 years off and on. I've worked as a member of a mental health team in college athletics at the University of Texas, at North Carolina Central University in Durham, but I've always worked as a faculty member, University of Texas, UTSA, et cetera, et cetera. And I guess, name, image, and likeness are relevant to me because I've been talking about additional compensation for athletes for the past 21 years, if not longer. Part of a group, the Dr. Harry Edwards of the world, the Alan Sachs, Donna Lopiano, Andrew Zimblast, the good lows, just a part of the people who've been working on this issue. And, it's really interesting time now. I mean, it is a really interesting time. And so, as Dr. Goodlow said, this will be really informal. I've got some points that I like to make, and I picked up that Dr. Goodlow said, family, how it impacts family and team. So what I think I'm going to do is, I'm going to sort of give you the skinny on what's happening with name, image, and likeness right now. Talk about a couple of things that have just happened in the last few weeks. What I'm observing. I'm also a member of the Drake Group, and we've been doing quite an amount of work in terms of looking at name, image, and likeness. And then talk about it on the high school level because I'm be totally transparent. I'm not as familiar with what states are doing. I know what some states are not doing, and I think Texas is one of those states, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm familiar with that, and I can sort of give you my feedback. Julie actually spoke. Julie Sumner spoke in my class like a couple of weeks ago. I teach a social justice and sports class at George Washington University in Washington, D.C. So I'm just going to bounce around a little bit to keep it fresh. And what I'm sure Lizette will be doing, if you've got questions, put it in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself, you can share as well. If I'd known this was everybody's going to be off camera party, then I would have kept driving in my car. But I ain't saying nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's nice to interact with people. I like seeing your names, but I like to see faces too. So anyway, I'm not sure where to start. So I'm going to start at the beginning. So we really know about name, image, and likeness across the states, right? Over close to 40 states had their own legislation. These states, what's up, Izzy? What's up, Paul? These states come through and, we decide whether or not, what's up, Joseph, Zach, we're going to have this federal Solomon legislation, right? And the legislation never happened. So then the NCAA and Classic, what's up? What's up, Bob Bora, Devin, Matthew? So what we know is that then the NCAA at the last minute, because Florida was about to pass, their law, implement their laws. What's up, Xavier? Is it Xavier? Pass their laws. The NCAA decided to pass this broad rule, right? Broad rule. NCAA's rule book, probably 400 plus pages, and they publish a page on NIL. And so basically, and I'm sure Julia's talked about this, I think y'all had Mr. Feldman on, right? Y'all had him as well. So I'm sure they talked about this, but the bottom line is right now, it's just like sort of the wild, wild west. It's the wild, wild west. There are very few rules, right? And so for you, what you need to know, depending on what you want to do, whether you're at Hampton or somewhere else, or whether you're moving into the space, there are a couple of things that you need to know. And again, some of this is going to be repeat. You need to know that, one, you have to report what you are doing to your school. Okay, you have to report that. It varies because, see, what we have right now is we've got school level policies, we've got some conference level policies, and then we've got team level policies. So one of the things we know is that, some young people are good at communicating, some are not, but you have to communicate your deals to your athletic department. And guys and gals, what I'm going to say is probably going to be like, if states implement it at the high school level, they're going to do the same that colleges are doing. They're going to do the same thing. They're not going to reinvent the wheel. So what you're hearing that applies to college is probably going to apply to your high schools. So it's reporting. The second thing that you need to know is you can have representation, right? You can have a financial planner. You can have an agent. The NCPA, National Collegiate Players Athletic Association, you should know that acronym. That's something that you're going to have to become familiar with. But the head of the NCPA, Ramogi Huma, has begun to talk about, this idea of certifying agents, right? And so they're going to probably be a special certification just for NIL. Right now, it's NBA and NFL folks, people who have passed those exams, which are based on the collective bargaining agreement. But basically what you're going to see is there's going to be this certification process. Now, this is not a time for your friend Bebe to be negotiating for you, okay? You got to tell, Bebe or Lil John or whoever is your best friend, you cannot be listening to them at this point, all right? This is something, and I'd even say, mom and dad, unless they're a financial planner, unless they're attorney, you need somebody who knows NIL. That's so very important. Now, let me step to the side and also say, you've got attorneys, financial planners, etc. But then you've also got organizations like Open Doors. There are over 150 companies and small businesses working in the NIL space, if not more, 150. And I only know like about 5 of them by name. So you're going to have an opportunity to work with individuals or these companies. So first, reporting. 2, you can have representation. But 3, the things that sort of get ambiguous is like, can I use my school's logo? Some schools are allowing athletes to use their logo and colors. Some are not. Some are doing co-branding and some are not. So when we talk about some of these core issues, again, you've got reporting, you've got co-branding, you've got representation. But so those, and I'm trying to think as well, I think, they have some things around whether or not you can do it in season or out of season, when you're on school and team time and when you're not. But those are the major influences, okay, when we talk about NIL. And so one of the things that Dr. Goodlow alluded to is, let's talk about the impact of these things, right? First of all, like I said, I've been advocating for this for 20 years, right? And I've always seen it as a great thing, because let's talk about the positives. Everybody talks about the negatives. I'm going to start with the positives, strengths-based approach, right? First of all, this is a great opportunity for you to expand your identity. NIL is not for individuals who just deem themselves as an athlete. Okay, NIL was not developed with your athletic identity in mind. NIL was developed with every other thing that you do as a student, high school or college, your other identities. What do you do well? It's like, Zach, you probably would be, you could do, posters, you could do book packs, you know what I'm saying? Joseph, you could do, and I'm looking in your room, you could do pennants and you could do some other things, but y'all probably aren't going to be endorsing toilet tissue. right? Because you probably don't buy it, right? What I'm saying is that you want things that are, the strengths-based perspective is you're going to be looking to do things that are specific to your identity. So if you're in high school right now, now is a great time to sit down and figure out, who am I? What do I like to do? What things can I realistically be an influencer for? You know, do I want to have my own camp? You know, do I want to do something in esports? You have to not think your athletic identity, you have to think about your other identities. That's so very important in this space, because it's going to be a crowded space. It's going to be a crowded space. And if you think about the primary ways that people have talked about making money off of NIL, they talked about being an influencer on the internet, right? They've talked about doing product placements, right? Y'all can walk around with the athlete talk hat on, you know what I'm saying? Get some free gear. All right. People are getting to drive cars, you know, people are getting free food. Those are the types of fundamental things right now that you can sort of work on, but the things that you do have to be consistent with your identity. So you have to step back. The second thing that I think is important and NIL is going to promote is communication. You're going to have to, if you're a great communicator or a good one, you're going to have to learn how to communicate better, because this is prime time, baby. I mean, you know, if you want to be on an internet commercial or something, or, you know, a local commercial on your local television station, you can't be getting up there talking all jacked up like I am tonight. You got to be formal. You have to be proper and you have to be ready. You know, so from a strengths-based perspective, this is an opportunity to work on your communication skills. If you can't talk, you got to walk. We don't want you endorsing our product. Okay. So we've got working on your identity. We've got working on some communication skills. And then we've got something that you're doing right now, and that's educating yourself. There are a number of college athletes who don't even know what NIL stands for. Ain't that something? They don't even know what the acronym stands for. They be like, what's that? What'd that be? Right? And so one is educating yourself, is keeping up with what's happening in Washington, with what is happening with the movement of federal legislation, the movement of unionization, because college athletes are going to have a union, mark my word, in the next 3 to 4 years. And then something that came out by an organization we call the National Labor Relations Board, which is a memo that basically said that we are going to move towards athletes being looked at as employees of universities. And that comes with, you know, talk. Here's the other thing, the strength-based perspective. Go talk to your parents about what it means to be an employee and what kind of benefits you get. Because now we're talking about benefits. We're not talking about practice. We're not talking about practice. We're talking about benefits. We're not talking about practice, Dr. Goodlow. We're talking about benefits. So now comes health and mental health and insurance, and that dude named FICA that takes all the money out of your taxes. You know, then you have to learn about those things. So this is a great opportunity for you to expand your identity, work on your communications, educate yourself about this, and talk to your parents about what being an employee and an athlete might mean. Because again, this is what's going to happen in the college level. And by the time that happens, y'all are already going to be in college. It might happen while y'all are college athletes, but it's going to happen. It has implications for it. Now, here's the next thing, and I want you to listen real carefully to this piece. As you walk into your high school classes or your college classes, everything that goes on in there, you should be thinking, how does this relate to my name, image, and likeness? How does it relate? In high school, I took accounting. If I was taking accounting now, I'd be like, how does this relate? I need to learn about taxes. Some high schools have psychology classes now. How does this psychology relate? Consumer spending. Because I'm gonna be real transparent with you. Do I pronounce your name Barbara? How do I pronounce it? Like regular Barber?
Yeah, that's fine. That's
Barber.
fine.
Can I call you B?
That's fine.
So B here got a chance, in my opinion, to make more money than all of y'all. Okay. Now, I'm gonna give you a prime example. Why? Like, if you have, you know, for your dads or your uncles or your grandpas, do they go to the grocery store and buy everything? Do they go to Target? Do they go to Walmart? Do they go to those places? No. Women buy stuff, with the exception of Dr. Goodlow, because Lizette make him go to the grocery store and make him do this stuff, and he does it because he's a good husband. So do I. Women buy most of the stuff. Women buy stuff from women. I say this to my class all the time. When is the last time you bought a product from a black male? When is the last time you bought a product from a black male? Now you might, y'all too young to drink, so you ain't bought none of Puffy's vodka. You know, you ain't bought nothing like that. But females have the advantage in this space. You know, so guys really have to expand their identity and who they are and what they are. So every class that you go into, you should be thinking, guys, how can I catch up with B? Because, you know, some of the things that are going to happen in the NIL space are going to come naturally to ladies and females and women athletes as opposed to the guys. The other thing is you want to start paying attention to the business of things. You want to start really looking at, you know, what do the top influencers do? Like, not having anything to do with the sport. What do the top influencers do? And then what are people doing that are popping up in commercials? Because one of the things that we're talking about in the NIL space, if you notice, some of the top earners as college athletes in the NIL space are quarterbacks. And a lot of them are not having very good seasons. How does that impact my NIL money if I'm not doing well on the field? Am I doing well in the classroom? Am I doing well in the community? Am I doing well in other spaces that are going to carry me? So this is not just about being an athlete. So we've talked a little bit about sort of the trajectory of things, the timeline, right? We talked about the timeline. We talked about the legislation. We talked about the federal piece. We talked about the National Labor Relations Board. We've talked about some strengths, right? We've talked about, you know, the fact that you work on your communication, work on your identities, work on ways to tie NIL to who you are as a person in different classes and in different spaces. But then what happens if you do all these things and you're not getting any deals? But your homeboy, your homegirl got a car, got some gear, making about 20,000. They ain't doing as well on the court or in the classroom as you are, and you pushing things, you're not getting those deals. So there's some negative aspects to NIL as well. One is time management, like influencing things, developing camps, signing autographs, doing interviews, writing books. These are all things that you can do with NIL, writing a blog, doing a podcast. These things take time. They detract away from your sport, and they detract away from your academics, and they detract from your family life. And so all of those things that I talked about from the strengths-based perspective, those are things that are going to allow, you know, Paul, Joseph, Zach, those are going to allow you, Wade, Solomon, to consolidate. If you want to take, what I'm saying is, if you want to take advantage of this NIL, you're going to have to work smarter and not harder. Say that again. You're going to have to work smarter and not harder. I love what Steve Harvey says. You know, he says your gift is what you do the best with the least amount of effort. What is that? Now, if you can combine that with excellence on the field, right? Because you're going to have to do something on the field to get an NIL deal. So if you can combine your gift, your other gift. See, going to college used to be about working on and finding out your gift, and it wasn't sports. So whatever your gift is, how can that be integrated into NIL so you're not spending so much time and it's detracting from your sport and your academics? That's the first negative thing. The second negative thing that can come about because of NIL is just the psychology of it. One of the things that I notice about high school athletes is a big deal is when they get their letters. Oh man, how many letters you get? When you get them from? Who sent it? I got that school too. Dr. Goodlow and I come from a time, Lizette come from a time where all your letters came in the mail and you put them in a shoebox. That's what I did. And I had quite a few letters. I'm just playing, William. I know you had more than I did.
I had like 3. Only had 3.
Whatever. And so one of the things that I notice with high school athletes is when somebody ain't getting their letters, that impacts them. Anxiety, they get sad. They isolate themselves from their teammates because they're not getting the same amount of letters that everybody else is. And I'm trying to figure out if NIL is going to be the same. Oh man, so-and-so got a deal at Chicken Hut and he getting free meals for the whole year and some gift certificates and I ain't getting nothing. Here go the other thing. Oh, well, I'm going to tell everybody I got some NIL deals, but I ain't really got none. Just like I hear some high school kids talking about they got letters and I know they ain't got no letters. So you got to be weary of the psychology of it all. This ain't going to be something that where you can fake it. Either you're doing it or you're not. Other people going to be doing it or you're not. You can't get lost in it. Let me tell you something. Everybody in here, whether it's Landon or it's Izzy, are not going to get an NIL deal. Maybe your thing is what I'm doing. Maybe you get so smart about NIL that you start representing high school athletes. Right? Because I think that one of the things that, it took me, and I wish somebody would have hit me to this really soon is, after you play in sports, you can still work in sports and not be an athlete. Maybe when they say what it's going to take to be an NIL agent, you just become an agent. So, or maybe you become the conduit. Maybe maybe you become the middle person. For these deals, maybe you're Under Armour was a big deal because they took advantage of, look at what Doc Goodlow got on. Under Armour infiltrated high school sports. So will NIL. How will you do it? Because there's going to have to be some kind of division between what happens in college and what happens in high school. Something's going to be different. We don't know what it is, but we got to make it different, just like something's going to be different between college and the pros. So my point being, going back to the negative things, you got to worry about your psychology when other people are getting deals. You can't be lying about deals if you ain't getting no deals, right? And you got to watch the amount of time that you spend on trying to get deals as opposed to being a good student and a good athlete. And the other thing is relationships. Relationships are going to be so important. More money, more problems. Money rules the world. I ain't got no money. That's my song. Money changes things in people, right? I mean, I can see some parents out there saying, oh, you're making so much money from your high school NIL, you need to start paying some rent up in this piece. I mean, that's what I might be doing. It could be, right. You got to give something. You got to put something on these groceries. Matthew, you eating a whole lot. You might want to come in with, a couple of dollars or something. Yeah. So with NIL deals, you got to pay attention not only to your psychology, but the psychology of others in your ecosystem, primarily on your team, on other teams, the friends that you have. That's also going to be an important aspect of this. And then I think, the last thing that I really think about, and it's sort of related to the other, and it's just how NIL is going to impact your athletic performance. Like, for a lot of athletes, you're going to play whether you get, a scholarship or not, whether you get the praise or not, you just love it. It's like, that's how I am with basketball, right? I'm just going to play. I'm going to play forever. As long as I can play, I'm going to play basketball because I love basketball. But like I said, when money comes into it, when all these logistics come into it, it changes things. And so you got to pay attention to, if you get in this space, how is it going to impact your performance? And then I did have one more final thought, and it just sort of slipped my mind there. Yes, it's your conduct. Don't think the NIL, once you get to the college level and once it happens in the high school level, isn't going to come with certain conduct clauses. You can't be out there acting no fool. It's just like, just think about all the athletes who've lost their endorsement deals and what they did to lose them. I can also see NIL deals coming with GPA, minimum GPAs. You see, NIL is going to be a great way to give athletes access to more, but it's also going to be an opportunity for sports entities to control athletes a little bit more. Don't think all of this comes for free. Some of it's going to come with some strings attached, at least until the union piece happens. So, I think I tried to give you about 4 things on the positive side of NIL. I think I tried to give you about 4 things on the negative side of NIL. I tried to give you a little bit of timeline. My bottom line really is NIL is not going to work for athletes unless athletes integrate NIL into who they are and what they study. Otherwise, it's just going to be something out there that's not very valuable. It's going to be like a car. Once you take it off the lot, it depreciates. Once you put on them sneakers and you get the crease in your Air Force Ones in the front, it depreciates. And NIL is going to be the same unless you make it more than the money. The money it's so not about the money. First the government going to take about 20-30% off the top. Companies like Open Endorse are going to take another 30%. That leaves you with about 40%. So if that was $10 you got on an NIL deal, you're going to get about $4 out of all of it. So it can't be about the money. It's got to be about how you use it. I'm going to be straight up, how you pimp it. It's going to be about how you pimp it. You're going to have to put on a big hat with some high heel shoes and some boots, and you're going to have to pimp NIL for all that it can, just like you're supposed to work your sport. Sport is not just about the physical aspects. It's about the leadership. It's about the teamwork. It's about the cooperation. It's about the confidence. It's about the discipline. NIL has to be about a lot of the same things. And if you make it about that, I think you find companies and people who want to work with you more. Now, just from a high school perspective, and I don't know what grade y'all in, but like if I were in the 10th or 11th grade right now, every place that I shopped, especially if it were a local business, I'd just be sort of checking them out. I know who the owner was. You know what I'm saying? I know what type of advertisements they do. Because as soon as I busted that 20-point, 10 rebound game, I'm going to start talking to them. And start talking to them about, cuz I didn't spend a whole lot of money up here over the years. I love to, endorse your fish fry or whatever it is. I would start thinking about that. I would start sort of testing what I could do on a local level. And like I said, y'all get in, you can get a few t-shirts, a couple of athlete talk hats and be endorsing and get some experience. Like you might have to, a lot of athletes right now, their NIL deals include free meals, free cars, free gear. And there's nothing wrong with those things because it's the experience that you're going to get from being an influencer, from being an endorser. And like I said, it's not all about the tweets and the posts and all that. Camps, autographs, being creative with different things is just so very important. So I don't want to keep going on and on and on and super on. Those are the things that I really wanted to cover. And I can't say this enough. It's a lot of people out here in this space that don't know what they're talking about. Like the people that the Good Lows brought on, with exception of me, they tops in their field. Julie Sumner, she knows every law, every state, every in of every out. Feldman, I'm gonna be really transparent. He's a person of color, and he's really hard to find people of color who are working in this space. See, what happened is all the advocates like me, we push for NIL, and then a bunch of business people came in here and swooped and developed all the companies, and now they're making all the money. And that's cool. That's cool. Find somebody who knows who they're talking about. Like I said, you can't be dependent on Bebe or Little John or a Little Sue or any of them people. You got to find somebody who knows what they're talking about. This is not a friend. This is business. And a lot about this depends on who you surround yourself with. If you're talking to a bunch of pigeons, they're going to give you a bunch of, if you're talking to some eagles, you're going to be up there flying with them. Because here's the other thing. There are no rules right now, but come next year or 2 years from now, there are going to be some rules. There are going to be some rules. And some people, the way the NCAA works is they go and let you do everything. Then they make the rule and say what you did was illegal. So you got to watch yourself. You have to. And Texas doesn't even have NIL legislation. They don't even have any. So everybody in Texas is doing what they want to do. So don't get caught up. You should be asking people who provide deals for you, are you a booster? Look them in the eye, just like I'm looking at Izzy. Are you a booster? If you don't know what a booster is, look up the Izzy said, yeah, I'm a booster. Look it up, NCAA rule book, because the booster in some cases could be your parents who give a lot of money to the university. And they're your parents. You like, my parents give a lot of money to the university and their attorney, so they help me cut this NIL deal. Oh, no, Paul, you ineligible. But y'all just made up that rule. No, Paul, didn't you see the blind side? We can do what we want to do. Didn't you see Varsity Blues? We can do what we want to do. So have someone who's educated, who's going to give you some advice. And lastly, group licensing is going to be a big deal, right? Because we don't want the quarterback to get everything. We want the whole football team to get something. Or we don't want that great point guard on our ladies basketball team to get everything. We want the team to get something. So guys, don't hesitate to work together, right? Don't hesitate to work together. You know, if you're a top flight athlete, you know, you can pull some of your boys in. If you're a top flight athlete, you can pull some of your girls in and work together. You know, I would be having small conversations about how we can make some money. And I'm not talking to the football and the basketball guys. I'm talking to the lacrosse, the soccer, the swimming. Those are the ones who are going to make the money. There are too many football players. It's 115 on each NCAA team. Dr. Goodlow knows that number better than I do, but it's going to be some of these teams that don't traditionally make the money. Oh, tennis too. Tennis, put it this way, the more gear your sport has, in my opinion, the more opportunities you have to make some money. And I'm not talking about just because of sport, I'm talking about like bags and water bottles and all those types of things. So don't be afraid to partner. Lizette, have I talked long enough? Because you know I can keep talking. I talk all night.
Dr. Gill likes to talk and we like to listen. But we've got a lot of questions in the chat, Doc. So let me go.
I got one. I got one from the Clack man himself. Do you think NIL is better or worse for athletes in the future?
I think it's better. I mean, I think it's definitely better. I mean, like, you know, I was a psychology major. I probably wouldn't have been a psychology major with NIL. I would have been accountant. I would have been sport management. I would have been business. I would have been poli-sci. I would have been something where every paper that I wrote in college and every assignment would have been an NIL. So when I walked out of college, I was an NIL expert. So I think it's going to be good if people use it. But if you just try and, it's like, how many people seen the movie Any Given Sunday? Y'all probably too old, too young for that. Okay, that's, you know, how about Remember the Titans? Okay, all right, good, good, okay. So age gap here, age gap. But my point being, it's gonna be good if you use it. Don't let it abuse you. Don't. Because right now there are athletes that are signing papers that they're giving away whatever they're giving away for the rest of their life. It's like companies right now signing them and they can use their photos for the rest of their life. That's not what you want. So it's going to be good if you use it and not let it use you.
All right, now one more. There's a bunch of them. Paul's my NIL attorney, my representative. How does NIL affect spirituality? Paul dives. He dives deep. Like Paul doesn't. He don't
Well,
walk.
that's a great question, Paul. Well, first of all, Paul, I think that spirituality is important to development. I mean, it's certainly a huge part of my life. So it's just important, period. In the NIL space, I think there's going to be a lot of space for Christians. You know, people who proclaim, you know, they've been saved and they believe in their Lord and Savior. I think it's going to be a great space for them. I think it's going to be a great space for organizations like the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I think it's going to be a great opportunity for athletes, not necessarily to form affiliations with churches because of their religious beliefs, but just because it's spiritual, you know, NIL opportunities with churches. Because see, there's some athletes out there that can't do that. But for folks who are spiritual and who are Christians, it's going to be a great opportunity for them. Absolutely. That's a great thought, Paul. See, you thinking. That's a deep, that's
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
yes, sir.
That's my guy, Paul, right there. Natal has a question about her daughter, Natalia. She does photography and videos for her sport team. And she wants to know how she can benefit from that.
Who is that? Is that not how you say that?
I don't know. Come on to talk to her.
Miss Miller?
Miss Miller, how you pronounce that? We want to say that correctly.
Natal, Miss Miller. So Miss Miller, here's what I would do. If you're good at photography, I start thinking about making trading cards for the kids at my school, the athletes at my school. That's the first thing that come to mind. Forget the videos. That's a whole. Well, you might think about some videos, some local video footage to sell to companies, something like that. But trading cards, that's what I would be doing.
Now, how would you get into and you did say the name right. I'm sorry, I was trying to get the buttons and stuff, but her name is Natalia, and she's really starting to do it and she's getting better at it. But how would you do cards?
There's a program online called Canva, and Canva's free. And they might have a trading card like a template. Is that the word I'm looking for? Template.
Yes.
But I would Google like trading card template, you know, find some decent software. You know, you can go to Staples and get a decent printer and some hard card stock. And I'd start doing cards. And I would say, you know what? I'm going to do cards. I would find the few biggest athletes in my area and say, look, can I do your card? You know, that's if things go over well in Texas. I don't know. Texas, you know, y'all ain't wearing no mask and everything. I don't know what y'all, you know.
Oh, we're in North Carolina. I'm in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Okay. Aggie Pride, Amplify.
Yes,
Okay, I'm an Eagle.
Okay. And a matter of fact, I don't know if you know the quarterback, one of the quarterbacks for A&T, Hooker. She was able to try to take pictures of some of the players that his father is Alan Hooker, who used to be a quarterback for A&T. So he was helping some of the local kids around the area, and she started taking pictures of them. And so sometimes she would post, then all of a sudden they'll say, hey, can you take pictures of me? And so now she's charging them. And it's very little, because it's not like she's a professional, but she just doing $25 and just start taking their pictures. She's just starting out right now. So, and they're high school students right now. So.
Right. And so, you know, take some pictures, you know, a card or some other representation, get them to sign a couple, hold on to them for a little while. I mean, I actually, 10 years ago, I made a replica of Alan Hooker's jersey, number 11, knowing well. So he did get his son to go to A&T. That's good. I thought he transferred and came back to A&T, right? Because his son didn't originally go to A&T. I think he went to Virginia Tech or something. Yeah. Yeah, but I know Alan Hooker well. I'm from the Gerald
He
Freight
has
line age.
two of
Yeah,
them.
yeah. So your daughter's
He has
on it.
two sons. One
Okay.
is at, okay.
Go
Yeah,
ahead. I'm
Alan has
sorry.
two sons, one at A&T and one is at Tennessee.
Gotcha. Alan was the bomb. Alan was the man. But your daughter's on the right path. You know, just whether it's the, I think it would go. I mean, her work right now would go over well with the college kids. You know, it would go over well, but also, you know, working those high school kids and keeping an eye on what Texas is going to do, you know, in terms of rules, would be a good way to go. I would also get her to think about NFTs.
What is that?
I wish I could explain it to you, but it's like digital cards, not print cards, but you digitize the cards. It's like, have your daughter Google NFTs, because I also think they're NFTs for video highlights. So basically what people are doing is selling digital pictures and videos as one of a kind. So let's say your daughter was at the A&T game and she caught Hooker going into the end zone and he flipped over and she got that video. She could sell that video as if it were a trading card.
Gotcha.
I'm not probably explaining it well, but look up NFTs.
Okay. I think somebody put some information in the chat.
Cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Doc, there was a question from Javi. Xavier, that's what we're gonna call him tomorrow in class. And Javi's question is related to, what did you say? What kind of negative effect does the level of success and fame have on the juvenile or immature mind in relation to NIL? That pressure.
I mean, we, you know, Justin Bieber. It's just, I mean, really, I mean, it just, I think what happens, and this is just my opinion as a clinician, you know, people begin to worry about the opinions of others become more important than the opinion of yourself and the people in your circle. And once you lose that, once you start catering to what everybody else wants, you can't please everybody all the time. Once you start catering to those folks and you lose a sense of who you are, that's the negative thing, you know, right there. Because if you think about it, prior to getting all that fame and that popularity, you really focused on yourself. You got a tight circle. You're doing the things you need to do. That's what allows you to get to that point. And once you get to that point, that fame, you know, all those people around you and catering to them can really have a negative effect on you. You forget things like the values that your parents have imparted, you know, your spiritual foundation. You forget about all those things. And that's really what I see. And then, you know, it's sort of like the thing that I like, and probably the reason that I talk so much and so fast, is because I really love what I do. Right? I do what I mean, Lizette and William are going to cook a great meal for me when I get to San Antonio. That's my pay. But I would do this if they weren't going to cook me some stuff on the grill that William's gonna cook for me when I come over. So the other thing is you lose sight of your why, your passion. And if you lose sight of your circle and your passion and yourself, I mean, it happens. As a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, it happens more than not. One of the questions that I asked in my class the other day of this assistant basketball coach at Florida Gulf Coast, Dunk City, I said, who's the best athlete who never really made it? And the guy he named made it, but he had a tragic ending. He named Len Bias. And y'all look up Len Bias' story. Len Bias could have been better than Michael Jordan. But after he got drafted by the Celtics, I think it was draft night. Was it, William? Draft night?
It was draft.
He lost himself. And he went out and had some cocaine, had a cocaine overdose and died. And, you know, it's just like, you got to remember your why. You got to stay around the right people. Because if you don't, you're going to be like the many people who, there's just a lot of people out there who didn't make it just because they got big headed. That's why we have rookie contracts. That's why they say you got to perform for the first 3 years before we give you this big money, before we give you the max money. That's why money in the NFL is hard to come by guaranteed money, because there are no guarantees. And so those are some of the negative impacts. That was a great question.
Let's see, we got there's I'm trying to scroll. I know Landon had a question about he said, I know many people don't make it to the professional level, but how much would it benefit to do this process prior to becoming a pro?
You're just gonna learn. This NIL is not a lot about sports. I can't emphasize that enough. So it's not about, getting to the National Women's Soccer League or, the NBA or the Olympics. You got to find something in this that you are passionate about outside of, it's related to my athletics, and I get to be on TV and, do those types of things. It's got to be about something else. And if you can figure that out, then it's worth it before you get to the pros. That's sort of my, and I don't mean to be repetitive, but I mean, think about this. Even if you go through college and you learn everything about NIL and you never do anything about NIL again, it's probably going to lead you to something else that's important to you that you're good at. Oftentimes, y'all, the journey is twisting and turning, and, we don't end up where we thought we would, but we end up where we're supposed to be. Right. And this is the same. You can't get up and chasing dollars or, trying to be good in your sport because you want to get endorsements. It's not going to sustain you. So, yes, sir.
Come on, you ask your question.
Hey, William, so Texas would be undefeated if they would have started Casey Thompson in the first place.
Oh, I said that's what did the kids say? Big facts. We talk about that in class every now and then. We got a crazy Sooner in one of my classes, so we got to talk about that in third period.
And if Colin A&M, they would be undefeated too.
Oh, there you go. If we played A&M every week, we'd be had 10 wins, Hobby. But anyway, don't listen to P-Roll. We're not talking to P-Roll. They don't even play football in New York, P-Roll.
And A&M still got a football team?
Didn't know they ever had one. But
God,
it's just a different issue.
Hey guys, as a matter of fact, we can just use Johnny Manziel as an NIL example, okay?
Yeah, he got an NIL deal. He had a lot of them.
He sure did. Sure did. And then it seemed to detract from his football game, even though I like Johnny Manziel. I like him. But it's that question about fame. Sorry, A&M.
Great question. There was, let me see.
I think, Dr. Gill, I think that, I don't know if you answered this one already, but in terms of applying it in the high school space, because these young men that are here are in a private school, there's really nothing governing that. I know in UIL, they've told us that student athletes can't participate at all, but in terms of private schools, that's open game. So what are some ways to help these young men and young women use this and start applying it right now in high school?
Yeah, I mean, Lizette, I would sort of go back to, first of all, with your sport, do you have some name brand recognition? And be honest about yourself. Look at your Twitter following, look at, are you the big man or big lady on campus? Look at those things. That's the first thing. And if you come to a point where you say, okay, yeah, I got a little following, I'm sort of somebody. I would really start with, again, local businesses, local ideas. Like, do you think that you could get 10 people to come to a camp that you teach? Could you get, and you know what? I think it's big for high school athletes. Could you get some kids, some 4th and 3rd and 2nd graders, and talk to them about sportsmanship or sports? Right? Your audience is not Buick. Your audience is maybe families. You know, maybe your private school has a certain denomination, religious denomination. Maybe it's that. I would look around my school and look at where the money is being spent, where the money is coming in. And if I got a sort of big name in some way or something to offer, then I would start looking at some of those things. I would look at my immediate circle, is what I'm saying. And really, again, you know, little kids look up to high school kids look up to college kids look up to the pros. So, and here's the other thing, ladies and gentlemen, you will learn this when you become a parent. Ask the good lows. You spend a lot of money on your kids. You spend a lot of money on your kids. If it's 2 things that I could go back and do, 1, I would have a business with kids, and 2, I would have a business with dogs. My dog just stayed at the kennel and it cost me $170. I was about to leave him there. Y'all keep y'all keep this little man. Shit, I ain't paying. Mike. So kids and dogs. You know, B, can you go and talk to a bunch of young ladies about maintaining your self-esteem in sports? Can you go and talk to young ladies about what Title IX is about? What can you talk? What can you talk? How can you go and do an educational seminar with a bunch of 6th and 5th graders on high school sports and what it requires to be a high school athlete? And charge $10 and you got 10 people, that's $100. And you do that every other weekend, that's $200 a month. I'm just saying small figures because I'm not even talking about when you're gonna put it on Zoom or Eventbrite so that people can see it widely. So you got what you can do within your small space, and then you can use tools like Eventbrite to sort of expand your space. I'm telling you, I want to cut too. When y'all start doing this stuff with the kids, I want my cut. I want 10%. Paul, I can depend on you. You're my spiritual man right there. Y'all all look trustworthy. Joseph, you look trustworthy too, Joseph.
Don't trust
See Solomon, I can't see him. He like, nah, I ain't got no 10% for you, buddy.
Don't trust P-Row on that. No, your money.
Doc, we got one last question, unless anyone wants to come off of mute. But what are some ways to tell the difference between our real friends and people that just want to cut when we make it wherever we're going? How do we tell the difference?
Ask them to do something for free. Put them to work for free for a while, not just one thing. Give them a few things. That's what I think the good Low's doing. They're gonna when they get rich, they gonna bring me out. So I'm just messing with y'all. I'm
taking care of Doc right out the gate. As soon as we get $7.50, $3.50 going to Doc.
Look out for Athlete Talk. Y'all log in where Athletes Talk. Check us out. Yeah, I mean, it's who's going to do some things for you and help you out along the way and be a partner with you. I think those things are important. You can't, I got friends. I still have a lot of my friends from high school, so people who have been there with you for a while. The other thing is the people who are going to tell you the truth, right? It's like, Matthew, if you're walking in the locker room, you got a booger in your nose and your friend told you, that's a friend. Friend always going to tell you when you got a booger in your nose, right? Friend going to tell you when you're a little bit musty, okay? And you musty, but they told you that's your friend. Don't be mad at them. Look out for them. And those are the things that I really think are important. What I think NIL will have you do, and look at this up, it'll have you working on your emotional intelligence. And if y'all not familiar with that, sort of look it up. There's a book called Emotional Intelligence 2.0. There might be a 1.0. I would read the book because one of the things that I'm continuously trying to get better at is how am I thinking 3, 4, and 5 steps down the line? That's what the people do. It's like you got to be able to not just think again about making that money, but then step 2, step 3, step 4 down the line, how is it going to help? But yeah, if your friend tell you musty, you got booger in your nose, that's your friend. You hang out with them.
Any other questions that you all have? Feel free to jump off of mute so we can hear your voices.
What laws do you think will be passed?
Say that one more time.
What
Joe?
laws do you think will be passed?
No, that's a great question, Joe. I think that there'll be a baseline federal legislation for NIL. There'll be baseline federal legislation in terms of college. I don't think high schools are going to come around for a couple of years, and there's no, to my knowledge, like national high school governing body. And legislators really aren't going to touch this, I don't think, on the federal level, high school wise. So I think we're going to see a federal legislation in college. I think we're going to see a national standard with regard to who can help athletes with NIL deals. I think that we're going to see a lot of backtracking by the NCAA and people getting in trouble. And I think we're going to see a union for college athletes in the next 5 years. Those are the things that I do really believe are going to happen.
Excellent question. Well, we don't want to keep Dr. Gill longer than what we said, even though he probably owes us a couple minutes.
I do. That's all right. I didn't drink this cup of coffee now, so I'll be up till tomorrow.
We just want to say thank you so much. Dr. Gill always comes on and drops some knowledge for all of us. And if you have not followed, I put it in the chat. I will drop it in the chat again so you can see where athletes talk. There's the plug, Doc. Make sure you check it out. We will be back again in the spring with a second part of NIL, because I'm sure some things will transpire specifically during basketball season and the end of volleyball season, and those young women that are going to go into the spring and have a lot of things. I mean, it's a small group of women that you may want to get to know a couple of your volleyball players over at Providence, at Incarnate Word. Some of these young women in the city, they're going to bring in the money. So thank you so much, Dr. Gill. We look forward to seeing you soon. Hopefully you'll be in San Antonio sometime, and then you'll drop by Central Catholic for sure to meet these young men in person.
For sure. Absolutely. I can't wait to get back to San Antonio. I think I know maybe November. We're coming sometime. I'm gonna run a half
In December?
See the December. It's the one out at the Marriott. It's the nighttime one. But I'm definitely gonna book a shuttle and come out to y'all house, or I'm gonna book a flight and come out there.
Come on out. You know, we down the street from Gill too. So come on and see us down at Central Catholic. But yeah, this was awesome. The emotional intelligence that 2.0